Hi, this is Brad with Baker County Trash Pickup. If this is your first time watching, my wife and I started a residential weekly trash pickup company when Waste Management pulled out of our county. This is part of a playlist that documents all aspects of the business as we grow week by week. This week we added 3 new customers, so this is, I believe, Sunday morning, loading up 3 cans to go pass out ahead of the Monday pickup. There are a couple of great comments that I've gotten over the past couple weeks, and I want to address those. The first one is a suggestion. We already talked a week or two ago about why the Parcan Easy Dump isn't a good fit for me. I believe you can search that in the playlist. It's part of the title. This week I want to talk about why a Pro-Pactor Compactor trailer is not a good fit for me. So that's something a lot of you folks have been reaching out and saying, hey, look into this trailer. If you don't know what that is, you're looking at it on the screen right now. It is a trailer that you pull behind a truck. It has a compactor inside of it. You can add on a cart tipper. It dumps, so when you get to the landfill, you can empty everything out. And there's a lot of advantages to this. There's also quite a few disadvantages, and actually one big one that just means I can't use it at all. So obviously the benefit of something like this is that it does have the compaction ability of real garbage trucks. And that's what, over the next coming weeks, you're going to see my main issue with my normal dump trailer is I'm just running out of space. I've got about 40-something cans, I think, at the current point I'm recording this voiceover, which is a few weeks ahead of what you're watching now. But I'm just flat out running out of space. I've got 14 yards of space in my dump trailer, but that fills up real quick with uncompacted trash. So this Pro-Pactor Compactor trailer will solve that problem. I think it holds, I don't know, 15 or 16 yards, but it's got compaction. I might have just completely made that number up. I don't know. So there are some definite advantages to it. The disadvantages for our specific applications are the following. One, I want my wife to drive while I pick up trash. That's still the long-term goal, and we have found with the truck and trailer, she just doesn't have the comfort level to do that. This would make that problem worse because this trailer is even longer. The second issue is the pricing on it. Here's a flyer that I was sent, and you can see it starts at $43,250. That's before you add a cart tipper. So probably after tax and before freight, this thing is nowhere near me. I'd probably be around $55,000 or $60,000 before it got to me. So that is a lot of money. If I'm looking at a regular trash truck, or a small trash truck, I should say, for $133,000, I mean, we're almost half of the cost at this point. If I've got the choice between getting a small trash truck for $133,000 or spending $60,000 on this Pro-Pactor trailer, can't even say it, I'm probably going to lean towards the garbage truck. The biggest issue, though, is this has a 16,000-pound GVWR. My Chevy 2500 has a 10,500-pound GVWR, which means I am over the 26,000-pound limit to needing a CDL. I was a little concerned, too, because the salesman who sent me the info on this said, you can tow our thing with a 3/4-ton truck without a CDL. And that's not true. If your combined weight is over 26,000, you need a CDL. So that concerned me a little bit too, that the salesman either didn't know or didn't care about the weight pairings between a 16,000 GVWR trailer and, a 3/4-ton truck. Maybe there are 3/4-ton trucks that have lower gross vehicle weights than me, or mine, I should say. And so maybe he was thinking of those numbers. But that didn't leave a good taste in my mouth either. But anyways, that is the Pro-Pactor trailer, and those are the reasons why. I appreciate the comments, but those are the reasons why that won't work for me either. One of the first comments we'll take a look at this week was this one that suggested some type of rear loader hook lift. So that is another type of vehicle. A hook lift is something that can lift and lower dumpsters. I've had several other comments that are kind of along this line. Folks saying if I get a garbage truck, I should start renting out the dump trailer so that it can make some money. Folks saying that I should look into commercial dumpsters, renting them out, emptying them, that sort of thing. And one of the things that I would like to stress, those are all good ideas and I'm sure they could make somebody a lot of money. But what I'm doing with this trash company, or what I'm hoping to do, I'm not trying to build some trash empire. I just want a job that I can work at and maybe do it 1 or 2 days a week and the rest of the time spend with the family. So that means I'm not trying to grow something very big. I don't want employees. Somebody asked, what do you have against employees? And aside from all the headache it would bring, the biggest reason I don't want employees is the financial drain that it would put on the business. This business is really just meant for myself and my family. I'm not trying to, well, this is going to make me sound like a jerk, but I'm not trying to create jobs for the community. One of the things that would require, if somebody's looking to me to provide them a job that they can live on, then it's going to have to be minimum 40 hours a week, right? I don't want to create 40 hours a week worth of work. If I can build a route that's 2 days and I run that by myself or with my wife, whatever it looks like in the future, and we can live off of that comfortably, that's the most that I want. I don't want to have to go get more work so somebody else can have a job. And I apologize if that sounds mean. I don't think it sounds mean, but I'm sure there's some people who think it will. But that's just not what I'm looking for in this business. So I don't really want to grow something that I can't manage by myself. And in fact, I really don't want to grow something that takes me 5 work days a week to manage. Now, only time will tell if that's realistic or not. It may not be. Hopefully you've been watching long enough to know I don't sugarcoat anything on here, so if I'm completely wrong and that's not possible, you'll see it in the future in these weekly videos. But that's kind of my goal. So that's one of the reasons I'm not going to look into hook lifts or dumpsters or recycling or anything else that requires me to get more infrastructure than what I have now, which is some way to hold the garbage, whether that's a dump trailer or hopefully in the future a garbage truck, and trash cans. And that's what I want. A second and very important reason is that logistically I can't run that kind of operation. I don't want to rent somewhere to store my belongings or the business's belongings. I think that would give me some anxiety that I'm not sure I could deal with, not knowing if my stuff was safe, if it was just stored somewhere else that other folks have access to. Maybe that's just because I've never done that before, but I just don't have any desire to do that, which means everything that I use for the business needs to fit on my property, which is relatively small. I think it's under 1/3 of an acre. We're on a little city lot somewhere, so it's not very big, and the space that I have is dwindling rapidly, especially with the trash cans that I have sitting on the back patio. We've got a lot of driveway space taken up. If you were to add commercial dumpsters, there's no way I could store any of that stuff at my place. So that's why I'm really just trying to focus right now on getting those 200 trash cans placed, figuring out what the next step is there, but I don't want to expand into something that requires dumpsters or more storage. Touching back on what I just said about being transparent and not sugarcoating things, somebody commented they were watching an older version of the ASMR videos where I just have the sounds of working, and it was one of the ones before I had my current tarp set up and wall set up, where everything was tightened down real good. It was when I was still trying to figure out my blowout issues. Loose pieces of trash flying out of the truck while I was driving down the road. And they said it's probably not a good idea to show that stuff being blown around. And one thing that I'd like you to remember, if you're new to the channel, you may not know this, but if you've been watching for years, you will know that I really don't care about how I come across to others. And that's not like in a negative way where I'm going to say mean things to you and I don't care if it hurts your feelings. It's kind of the opposite, where I'm going to give you the 100% honest truth of what happened. And I may be embarrassed. The time when those doors swung open because I didn't shut them, that was tremendously embarrassing. But the whole point of this channel is to entertain and also educate. And I can't do that if I hide all of my mistakes, or if I whitewash all of the things that are going on behind the scenes and I just give you this pretty picture of I never make mistakes and I never mess anything up. Another thing I want these videos to do is help set people up for success down the road if someone else is finding these videos who's trying to start a trash company. And I think what's much more helpful is to see the progress, the evolution of this week I used 1 board. This next week I used 2 boards. The week after that I had 3 boards. Then I cut some sides in. Then I started using the tar. That's going to be a lot more helpful than me just saying, you know, do whatever you need to so trash doesn't fly out. If you can see the mistakes I've made, it's going to help. This is also going to sound negative, and I don't mean it to, but I also don't care a great deal about what people who watch the videos think of me in terms of, wow, this guy's an idiot. I feel like if you're worried about what people are going to say, you really shouldn't be posting videos on YouTube in the first place. I didn't go quite like I wanted, but that's all right. I hope that doesn't make me sound like a jerk when I say those things. It's not something I mean to sound callous, but it's kind of just my thought process when it comes to showing things in these videos. Like, if you're not going to be honest with people, what's the point of even making an instructional video on how to start a trash company? It's not going to help anybody if you're just making it look perfect all the time. Now we're getting to the point that I'm sure you've eagerly been awaiting, when the trash juice exploded in my face. Now, I will say this was 100% my fault. This bag did not rip, and I don't know if you can tell when it slows down, but what happens is there is a large amount of juice in this bag that, of course, finds the lowest point, and when I sling it, it goes to the very far corner, and that far corner contacts the wood sides of the dump trailer that I've built. And it acts just like a water balloon for that section of the bag and explodes it everywhere. And when it happened, I was not happy. So, like, I knew it was only a matter of time before something like this happened. It is what it is. I was like, just give yourself a couple of seconds of self-pity. Well, there's the first trash bag exploding on me. And move on with the work. So I finished cleaning that can, got some wipes and started cleaning off. And the whole time I was just like, just don't think about what it could have been. Don't worry about it. If it makes you sick later, it's going to make you sick, like medically, not like I was going to vomit. It didn't bother me that much. It was definitely an experience. Well, that sucks, but that's what I signed up for. Smelled super strongly of vinegar. I honestly think it was some kind of food, maybe some kind of cooking sauce. It didn't smell like anything. I was going to say unsanitary, but I guess everything in a week-old trash bag is unsanitary. It didn't seem like any kind of body waste products. It seemed more like just food or liquid that is used in the preparation of food that had been thrown away. I don't know if that's what it was, but that's what I'm going to say it was. Looking back on it, I am surprised I didn't have more of like a nervous breakdown, but I think a lot of that has to do with some of the stormwater management work that I've done. If you don't know what that is, stormwater management is when you do things to take care of where the rain goes. So when somebody builds a Costco and they have a giant parking lot now, all the water that would have ran onto that forest before you bulldozed it to pave everything, the water that would have been absorbed by the soil and the trees and the grass and all that, now it's got to run off somewhere. And usually that's a retention pond. Now, some retention ponds look very pretty. Some, if they're neglected, are literal trash swamps. And so there was one that I cleaned up behind an O'Reilly's Auto Parts one time. I think I was working there for like a week and a half. And it was a week and a half of just being in stagnant swamp water with trash everywhere. And so that helped desensitize me to a lot of gross stuff, I think. And, you know, some of the other jobs I'd done. I've done some pretty gross stuff in the lawn care landscaping side of my life, you know, operating Copper Creek cuts. So that has helped the transition to trash. Because once you realize, you know, stuff may be gross, but it's not necessarily going to kill you, situations like this get a lot less scary, and it's more just an annoyance than something that, you know, will ruin your whole day. Probably ruined my wife's day because I think I stunk. It got on my clothes, obviously, and I didn't have a change of clothes. That's a good learning experience, is probably to you know, make sure you pack a spare change of clothes in case one of them gets soaked in garbage juice. Now, what I will say is that this one incident is what had me thinking more about garbage trucks. I don't know if you've seen it, but last week I did a video where I was looking at a small garbage truck that we might get. And one of the reasoning points that I had was if I do place all 200 cans and I'm still manually collecting them with liners, well, those liners cost 75 cents a piece. That's $150 worth of liners for 200 cans every week, $600 a month. Maybe it would be better to put that $600 a month towards a truck payment, right? It was after this trash bag exploded in my face and I was driving around the rest of the route that I was like, I have got to get away from this dump trailer. How can I make a trash truck make sense today? And I don't think we're quite there yet, but it is something I'm probably going to be pulling the trigger on here very shortly. And, you know, if there is, you'll see an update if we end up getting anything. I don't know why I never pieced that math together for the liners. I think I talked about it already last week. I mean, I knew I was going to use liners for a long time. I guess I just never extrapolated the cost if I put out all 200 cans, which I'm ashamed to say. I don't know why. But that trash juice to the face was a big factor on, you know, now why I'm looking at smaller trucks that aren't necessarily what I wanted for the end goal, but might be able to get us out of a jam now. Or at least hopefully stop this from happening again. I do believe that was the highlight of this week, so not too much else to talk about aside from some more of your comments. We had another comment along the lines of liners. That was worded badly. Several folks have mentioned this as well. Why not put bungee cords around the rim of the garbage cans? That should keep the liners from slipping down and save some time. And I don't disagree with that premise. I think there's a few issues with this, at least for me personally. One of them is the liners are only temporary until we get a can, so I don't really want to invest in infrastructure that's just going to be a waste down the road because it's not, you know, how we want to continue to operate the business. They are an expense that won't generate any revenue and eventually will just be trashed, hopefully sooner rather than later. Whenever I look at a solution to a problem, I very often will try and think of all the negatives that will come about because of that solution. And if I don't want to deal with those, or I think those will be more headache than what I'm dealing with now, I won't really pursue it much. So the idea that now I'll need to buy, let's just say I do it for the cans I have in service, so 50 different bungee cords. Well, if I'm doing it right, I really need a backup for every single one, right? Because in a very low odd but worst case scenario, what if I show up one day and every single bungee cord accidentally got thrown away and I can't find it, or I don't want to dig through the trash, or some kid stole it, or it broke, or whatever. So there has to be some number of backup bungee cords that I keep in the truck. So now that's more storage in the truck. How am I going to store them so they don't get all tangled up and kinked up and everything? But the bigger issue, as far as is it creating more problems than it solves, is right now I don't have that many trash bags as a percentage, or trash cans as a percentage, where the liners fall down. Most of them, it's not an issue. It's maybe 10% or less. So then the question is, does it make sense on 100% of cans to add bungees? This is really nice. She put a note on here that says broken glass. That will add, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 seconds per stop. Does it make sense to do that to every can just to save an extra, I don't know, 30 seconds or so on the cans where the liners fall down? And at least for me, I don't think it does. So, you know, the follow-up might be, we'll just put bungees on the ones that routinely fall. But I don't know, you know, the odds are you might have one that falls randomly, but then you run into a lot of the same issues of still having to buy some and keep them on hand. And I don't necessarily know if I want to deal with that. The other thing that I've seen recently is that even if the liners fall in, the only time that's a real pain is if there's loose trash, which is, again, is a pretty low minority. In order to make the most out of the space in the trailer, I've been having to throw almost every single bag I can. So the liners are really only when it's the very last little bit that I can't reach with my arms. which means even if a liner falls down into the can, if it's bags on top, I'm still just slinging the bags, even if physically I could have picked up a more full liner. I don't know if that makes sense now, but it will in coming weeks. I think I may have already talked about this too. I apologize if I have, but that goes along the same lines as the suggestions to build some dispenser boxes on either side of the trailer for the liner rolls. Honestly, that's more work than I want to get into. I don't want to fabricate or build anything. Keeping them in the hydraulic box for now, it works fine and it only adds a couple of seconds. I don't think the amount of time it would take me to build boxes for them that were removable, where I could put them in, that would stand up to the weather and driving down the road, the cost, the time to build all those, I don't think it's worth the time savings from just spending 3 to 5 seconds walking up to the hydraulic box. Again, I'm not too worried about perfecting the use of liners other than the real big efficiency gains, like from moving them from the truck to the hydraulic box. Like, that's something I'll do. That saves a lot of time every stop. It doesn't cost anything. It makes the whole process smoother. But since the liners are not going to be around for much longer, hopefully, I don't want to invest a whole lot of time in fixing issues with them, or money, or materials, or anything else that goes with it. They're all good ideas. It's just not something I want to pursue based on my current set of values and whatever. Another great question about the business side. The concern is Waste Management left, but what's preventing them from coming back at some point in the future? And there really isn't anything. I'm not that worried about it, though. I think if on a corporate level they've made a decision to pull out of more rural areas, which that's, from the comments I've been getting from you guys, that's the impression I get. A lot of people have said, yep, they've left this area or that area as well because they're focusing mainly on commercial stuff. I don't think that's something that would change unless you got, maybe a new CEO in the seat, or if the shareholders or the board started complaining, something like that. I don't see, short of that, them reversing that decision, because now they've lost all those customers, so they're going to have to fight for them back. It seems like it would just be a big issue for them to try and come back. It might happen. It's not something I'm actively worried about. Some logistical questions about the trash route. The tarp is nice though, because I can throw it in and up and I don't have to worry about it flying. Well, I'm not strong enough to throw it over the thing anyways, but the tarp keeps it down. And these are all good questions that I've gotten a lot of before. So for Christmas, for Thanksgiving, what am I gonna do with all the extra trash? I promise I'm not saying this to be a jerk either, but I'm just gonna deal with it and throw it away. Like, I've never gone through a holiday season with trash pickups, so I don't have the information to articulate what I'm going to have to do differently. I'm assuming it's just going to be a lot more trash, and I'm just going to have to pick it up. Like, it's just, I don't know how to explain what I would do with it. I mean, maybe there would be more stops involved. Maybe I could start my route an hour or two earlier to make up for it. If it's something like trees, which I don't guess that would be out right away. I don't know the dates, so I don't know when people would be wanting to get rid of trees. But that might be something I would just collect with the dump trailer on a separate day, for some extra kind of fee. Because I don't think I can dump green waste in with this municipal solid waste. I don't believe the landfill allows that, but I don't know. So I don't really have a good answer for you. It's just I'll do the best I can. We'll find out here in a few months. What would you do if it's raining or storming out on your pickup day? Well, very funny you should mention that, because as I sit here on Saturday, August the 10th, doing some last minute audio recording because I've been so busy I haven't gotten to it before now. We just this past week dealt with Hurricane Debbie. So week number 11, episode 11, when that comes out, you'll see me picking in the rain. Monday, we got completely stormed out. It rained all day long, and it was hard, steady rain too, with a lot of winds. So it just wasn't safe to pick it all up. All right, so we're done with the route again. I think this was 27 stops and 30, close to 30 cans. I'm guessing we probably have close to 1,000 pounds again. I didn't have to tip it. I didn't tip it any this week. Again, you know, last week me tipping it was just an experiment. I think there's still room for another 10 or 15 cans if they were bags that I could throw. The issue is the liners that I can't, but I think I've still got, you know, 10 or 15 more cans before I max this thing out. I could be wrong though. We'll just have to see. We got out Tuesday and we were still getting some bands every hour. It would sprinkle real hard for 30 minutes and then it would stop and then we'd get another band. So we did all the trash pickup on Tuesday and it was raining, so you'll be able to see that. I've got a high-vis rain vest I threw on, and the only other thing that changed was that I had to spend a lot more time on stops tipping cans over. Because, and this was completely my fault, I told people, still put it out Sunday night, because there's a chance that very early Monday morning we might be able to beat the rains, and if that's the case, we're going to do that. So I woke up at, I think it was 3:30, or it was very close to 4 a.m., and skies were clear. I started getting ready. As we were about to leave, the rains hit, and when we looked at radar, it wasn't going to stop. So that means all day long, the cans had the risk of getting their lids flipped open because of the high winds and rained in. And there were about half of them that were like that, which meant I had to deal with several hundred pounds of water in about half of the cans. I had to tip them over and drain them, but you couldn't tip them over too fast because then the trash would run out, especially if there was loose trash. Some of the garbage bags down at the bottom, the water had infiltrated those. So on some, I had to figure out, can I drain this trash bag or do I need to pop a hole in it and let it drain? And it added minutes to every stop. And that was also the first week we had a bunch of new clients, because that's when we switched to just flat $36 a month. There's no deposits. There's, you know, we're the cheapest in the option. You don't need to do anything special. We bill monthly. So we had gotten, I think, 13 or 14 new clients and 13 or 14 more cans on the street. So not only was it a longer route than we've ever done before, but it was also more difficult than we've ever done before. But I don't think on most Florida rainstorms it'll be quite like that. But again, I'll just work through it. DJ Quackers wants to know, great name, what's the best way of advertising so far? What or who is giving you the most clients? I think it has probably been Facebook, and not even paid Facebook ads. When I first started, I paid $150 for a month-long Nextdoor ad. That got me 3 conversations and no clients. I want to say I did 2 or 3 Facebook ad campaigns. All of those were about a month long, and all of those were about $150 a piece as well. Maybe a dozen or so clients from those. I've spent quite a bit on direct mailers. Those have been decent. I don't know if they've made back everything I've spent on it yet, but it's one of those things that long term I'm going to continue to do, because the folks who are in the area, I think I want them to see the brand and know it and be more familiar with it. We are probably going to shift away from what I have been doing in direct mail, which is a business card, a door hanger, and a printed letter that I've signed inside of a standard envelope. And we will switch to getting some nice mailers for every door direct mail. I've just been waiting for a couple of things to get figured out. The garbage truck is one of them. Our pricing model is another. With those things figured out, I think we can craft a pretty good mailer that'll have some good branding and should convert some folks, but that'll be a question mark because we haven't started it yet. And honestly, I think one of the best things has probably just been posting in local Facebook groups. I've been trying to do silly, stupid posts about the trash business, and I think a lot of people like that. But when we switched to $36 a month pricing instead of the, annual paid in full for a discount, off of those posts, we got 13 or 14 new folks. So that's probably been the best thing. I haven't done a lot of door-to-door, but I am going to try that in the future too. Again, because I think we've got some pretty competitive pricing and promotions where if somebody can hear about it, I don't think there's a reason for them to say no. Looking at this week's numbers, our clients went to 29. That's an increase of 3. Our cans went up 3 as well. So now we've got 33 of our 200 cans placed. Still a ways to go, but making progress slowly. Liners on 33 cans will run $24.75. And fuel was around $32.91. I think this week I also tracked the fuel spent delivering cans, which probably I should do moving weekly forward if I can remember to. If you've watched before, you'll know Baker County covers the tab for our dump fees. That's part of the fact that they are one of the members of this regional landfill. $16.50. We dumped 1,100 pounds. That's a 60-pound increase from last week. The revenue on all our cans for this week is around $252. The total of our direct costs for this week, somewhere around $57.66. That leaves us with a profit of $194.34. Today's route took us the normal 3.5 hours we're used to, so that was 6 man-hours. Ends up being an hourly rate of $32.39. If I was running this route by myself and my wife didn't help, it'd probably be a little bit longer, but I'd be closer to the $60 an hour mark. So that's looking a lot better from the first time we started. I think we were under $7 an hour, and now we're around $32 an hour. Of course, I've said this every week, that doesn't actually mean that's what we get paid. All the money this business makes is just going right back into the bank account. We aren't taking any kind of wage for it. It's just a little number so you can kind of see how the efficiencies of the business improves week over week. That'll wrap up week number 8 of trash pickup. Over the next few weeks, you can look forward to a few exciting things. One of the weeks we add 14 customers and cans. One of the weeks we've got Hurricane Debbie. And you may or may not be seeing a garbage truck on the channel here soon. You'll just have to stay tuned for that. But as always, thank you so much for watching. Please leave me any questions you have below. That's a really easy way for me to fill the airtime as you're watching this video, especially since it's just kind of the same thing now where we're just throwing trash. Over the next few weeks, you'll see the dump trailer get more and more full, so we'll experiment with a couple of different strategies to make the most out of that space. But again, leave your comments down below, and I'll answer them in the next week's video. See you guys then.